Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money with your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 286 of Screw the Commute podcast. Today we're going to talk about choosing hosting. And you say, well, hey Tom, Mondays are supposed to be for things that made you a lot of money and saved you a lot of money. What's up? Well, let me add to that list of things I should do on Mondays are things that lost me a lot of money. How about that? And a hosting service did this to me when my site was missing in action for 10 days. I'll tell you the details of that later. Anyway, there are some things you need to know about your hosting to make the right decisions about what kind of hosting to get and which will save you and make you a lot of money. Okay. Now, I hope you didn't miss episode 285. We had Mickey Williams. I mean, this lady has the biggest hair of anybody I know. She made a whole brand out of it. And she was chosen as one of the best speakers in the country by Meetings and Convention Magazine, along with Tony Robbins and Jay Leno. And she only does what she likes to do. All right. Well, I hope you heard her on episode 285. Now, how would you like to hear your own voice here on Screw the Commute? If the show's helped you out at all in your business or given you ideas to help you start a business, we want to hear about it. Go to screwthecommute.com and look for a little blue sidebar that says send a voicemail. Click on it, talk into your phone or your computer, and tell me how the show's helped you out, and put your website on there too so you get a big shout out on a future episode of Screw the Commute. Now, grab a copy of our automation ebook at screwthecommute.com/automate free. We sell this book for $27, but it's yours free for listening to the show, and it saved me millions of keystrokes and allows me to handle customers lightning fast. And it's meant a lot of money to me. So grab that at screwthecommute.com/automate free. And while you're at it, grab a copy of our podcast app. That's screwthecommute.com/app. That's APP. And don't worry, all of this stuff is always in the show notes. And to go directly to a particular episode, you go screwthecommute.com/ and the episode number. This is 286. Now, we're still sitting here in the middle of this pandemic. People are working from home. They don't know what they're doing. Some are out of work and wondering what the heck they're going to do. Well, I don't want that to happen to you. I've been preaching this since 1996 when I started teaching this stuff and started making a lot of money selling online from home. I even started a whole school about it. It's imtcva.org. It's the only licensed, dedicated internet marketing school in the country dedicated to this topic. We finance it for you with no interest and no credit check. You can have a highly in-demand skill. See, every business on earth needs this kind of stuff, shopping carts and email marketing and text and social media and all this stuff, but they are clueless on how to do it. We have one student that's making $6,000 a month, just took over this from other people that just couldn't wait to get it off their plate. They're just throwing money at it. All right, so we can teach you how to do this. Check it out at imtcva.org. And I'll tell you what, this would be a great, one of the best ever legacy gifts you could give to a grandchild or your children or a nephew or niece or something, because they can have a legitimate, highly in-demand skill in several months. I mean, we can't give them a certificate unless they're there for 6 months, but they're making money before, as soon as, within months of starting the school, and it's a possibility. So check it out at imtcva.org. Give me a call, and I can discuss your future or one of your loved ones' futures on the web. All right, let's get to the main event. We're going to talk about web hosting, but the first thing I got to get in your face about is don't call me up with a problem and tell me you don't know where your website is hosted and you don't have a password and user ID to get into that company. And also the password and user ID for your hosting service company is not and should not be the same user ID and password you use to get into your website to add stuff to it. Now, come on, folks, you got to be responsible. I just don't get it. Some very competent business people totally throw this kind of stuff to the wind. And then when the people helping them disappear which they will, they all disappear. All right. And I might, even with the disappear part, it might be your son or daughter takes care of this stuff for you. But then turns out, well, the kids are sick, Dad, I can get it next week. Or, you can't run a business like that. That's just stupid. In fact, one of the reasons small businesses fail is because they make decisions based on keeping the family happy rather than what makes sense for the business. And I cannot tell you, I'm on a rant, folks, how many stupid, pitiful kids talked their parents out of going into my program, and then those stupid, pitiful kids that don't know 1/1,000,000th of what I know about making money online goes off to some, here we go again, stupid, pitiful college and doesn't help their parents at all in the business. And now the stupid, pitiful parent is left to get robbed by all the smart, ruthless scammers. All right. Now, can you tell how I feel about this, folks? All right. I'm sorry about the tough language, but you got to get a 2x4 to the head is if you want to play games, great. Give your kids some money to do nothing. You'll do nothing. Your business will suffer. You, in many cases, you won't even know it. And then everybody, the family's happy and you're going broke. Okay. So if that's what you want, great. If you want to be smart about this, go back to listen to all my podcasts and see what other people are doing, and listen to all the Monday sessions that teach you how to do this stuff. I mean, come on. If you're going to be serious about business, get serious. All right. Well, all right. So there's my rant for today. All right, let's get back to what's a hosting service. Well, this is a place that has computers that store your website, the files, like the pictures and the graphics and the text and the engine like WordPress or whatever you got. It stores that and makes it available to the internet. And it's called a web server. These are a specialized kind of computer. This isn't the kind of computer you're using at home or at work. Now, web hosting companies typically have a lot of other services, and you can get email through them. Some provide you with shopping carts that are usually pieces of junk, web authoring software, again, very low-level crap, statistics, automatic backups, which I'm going to rant on later about that, and tons of other things that are website related. Well, the problem with many of these extra services, in fact, most of them, provided by most web hosting companies, is that many of the services are substandard and only there to make you think you're getting a good deal by having all these extra things. See, they think you don't know any better. Of course, and in most cases, they'd be right. Many of the extra services are so poor or primitive that you'd be crazy to even use them if you knew what you were doing. Some of them are good, yeah, but you don't know what's what, right? Now, I harp on shopping cart systems all the time. If you picked your web host because they gave you a free shopping cart, I'm coming to your house and beating you with a ball bat. All right, that is just so ridiculous. All right, you're listening to a guy like me who's been there since the beginning, 1994. I've seen just about everything you could have, and this is a ploy that they do to get you to take their hosting and get you stuck with their hosting because you say, well, I got all this stuff in the shopping cart. Well, yeah, and it's not doing anything for you and it's not working. You need to listen to my shopping cart episodes, episode 10, and then I did another one just recently. I forget what the number was. Don't make a decision like that. The automatic backups, this is just illogical and stupid. All right, I'm going to explain that to you later. Why them giving you backups sounds good, but it's really ridiculous. And yes, they'll give you basic statistics, but Google Analytics is free and one of the most sophisticated services in the world. So don't base your decision on hosting on all the extra things that they dangle in front of you. All right, another problem with hosting is that in many cases, they go through a continual what I call porpoise cycle, up and down, up and down. See, let's say they provide really good service. So all their customers brag about them, and then they get a good rating on some internet magazine or some top 10 hosting service list, something like that. Then they get a rush of new websites to host, and then everything slows down because they don't have enough computer space and tech support to handle the surge in the business. What's the result? Your website slows down. You can never get anybody on tech support phone. 6 months later, they start to improve and add new equipment and hire more people, and everything's fine again until the next rush. Okay, it's up and down. I've been through lots of these cycles over the years, and sometimes it's just not pretty. I mean, I get mad at them, they get mad at me, but unless you're willing to spring for the money to be hosted on a dedicated server, that's where yours is the only website on one of their server computers, which I'll cover a little bit later, you've got to live with what they give you. It's just too difficult to move to a different host every time you have a little trouble. And where would you move to? See, the next host could be just coming off their high of good service in that cycle, and then in a few months, your website would be no better off than it was in the old hosting company. All right. Now, some services are considered bad all the time. And, this is my not so humble opinion and loads of other people's not so humble opinions. But GoDaddy is terrible for hosting. They cater to people that do not know any better, and they put probably thousands of little dinky websites, and they know you're never going to make anything out of yourself. And so you'll never even notice or even know how to evaluate if the hosting is any good. Now, they're fine for buying domain names as long as you don't get caught up in buying a $2 domain name and your bill is $400 when you get done, because they are masters at upselling you. And again, if you don't know what you're doing, you'll pay for stuff that you'll never use and never need. So anyway, my opinion is that GoDaddy's pretty bad for hosting. All right, so let's get into the types of web hosting. Most people start out with what is called shared hosting. That means that hundreds or maybe thousands of websites are housed on one server computer. I mean, the hosting company may have hundreds of these computers, but each computer would have hundreds at least or thousands of other websites on there. And your speed and the performance of your site depends on what everyone else is doing on their sites. Now, this is cheap and what many people start out with. I certainly did, for sure. Now, the next step up is called a VPS, Virtual Private Server. This is where a hosting server computer is literally divided up with a bunch of simulated servers still on the same physical computer. And I don't pretend to know how this works, and you probably don't even want to know. And it costs a little bit more per month, but chances are your website performance will be much better than the cheaper shared hosting. I guess what everyone else does on their VPSs don't affect your little section of that computer that much. All right, the next step up is a dedicated server. This is a server computer where your site or sites are the only ones on that computer. This keeps you separated from everyone else, and you will get great performance from your website going this route. Now, here's some things you need to know. If you don't know what you're doing, this will not work for you. There are lots of little details about hosting your website that you won't have a clue about. And if that's the case, I've kind of figured 3 options. One is to learn how to operate a dedicated server. Well, guess what? This is not usually an option for most of us, including me. I don't know how to do it because there's a lot of geek knowledge involved. So wipe that off the plate unless you're a super highly technical person. The second option is to have someone that works or freelances for you and has server management skills run it for you. And the third is to have the hosting company give you what's called a managed dedicated server. In this case, it's their responsibility to keep the server running efficiently and keep the software up to date and all that kind of stuff. Now, this costs more, but it's the way many people go. Now, a drawback of a dedicated server is if you have all your sites on that server and it goes down, guess what? You just disappeared off the face of the earth. So I have multiple dedicated servers on different hosting companies. So I can keep some things going if any one of those companies has trouble. If you have lots of money-making sites, spread them around to different hosting services. So, like I said, if one of them has trouble, you don't go out of business. All right, now you also have, this is kind of the new kid on the block, cloud servers, where your website is in virtual space. Now, with cloud servers, you can build your server space exactly to fit your needs, and you never have to worry that some hardware issue or like a hard drive quits on one of these computers and breaks it down and takes your site with it. No, it's all in the cloud, so to speak. That's a relatively new thing and affordable. All right, now picking a web host. Now I'm going to give you a checklist of some points to consider when selecting your web host. And you may not understand some of these terms yet, but just, you can look at the show notes if you want to print out a checklist of this. First thing I got to tell you is avoid free hosting and hosting offered by your internet service provider. Some of the people that give you internet offer you a little bit of web space, but guess what? They are not hosting companies. It's going to be the worst of the worst hosting. Free hosting, they have no reason to keep killing themselves to take care of it, keep it up to snuff. So this is not the place where you go free. You want to get solid hosting because you're going to be crying big froggy tears if your site loads as slow as molasses or never loads at all. Okay. In fact, Google came out several years ago and said, if your site doesn't load lightning fast, you'll never see the light of day in our search results. So this is not a place to scrimp. Okay. One thing on the checklist, do they have some type of thing similar to what's called cPanel? There's new ones coming out that different names. I don't know the names of all of them, and some hosting companies have their own thing. But cPanel is a place where you can handle lots of simple tasks for your website without having to call tech support. I kind of think that the geeks invented this to try to get rid of you and give you some easy ways to do stuff so that, because a lot of geeks, highly technical people, can't stand you. They can't stand your dumb questions and they let you know it. So I think to keep the customers happy, they figured out a way to make certain things easy for you. So you want to ask, do you have some type of cPanel? And now let's get into this backup things. Do they have backups? Do they have reliable backup system? How often do they back up? Here's a critical question. How long will it take to restore your site from backup if something goes wrong? And here's the thing, folks. This does not relieve you of the necessity of doing your own backups. I want to take a little sidebar here. See, it's good if your host does backups, but let's think about this for a minute to see how ridiculous it is for you to rely on your host company's backups. Well, what if they get hacked? And guess what? Just about every big company gets hacked or they're a target for hacking. So what if they have a backup somewhere and their entire company is down? Or what if they go out of business? Also, I learned this lesson the hard way a long time ago. See, I have to go through this stuff, folks, so you don't have to go through it. Right? So my hosting service went down on Antion.com. And this is when I relied on that site for most of my income. And yes, the hosting service had backups, with millions of sites to back up. All right. It took 10 full days to find my site and restore it. This was a lot of money down the drain. See, I told you hosting services make you lose money. This made me lose 10 days or a third of a month worth of high income. If I had had my own backup on somewhere else, they didn't have the cloud in those days, but even on a hard drive in my office, or a portable, or even in those days we back stuff up on DVDs and CDs. Had I had my own backup, I would have been back up and running in less than an hour. See, they repaired the hosting service, but they had to go through millions of sites to restore them. So you cannot let this happen. Now, you can get various WordPress plugins that will automatically back up your website to the cloud or Dropbox or Google Drive or wherever you want it, so you don't have to worry about it. But here's the thing. Make sure you know how to restore the site if it does need restored from backup. Most people say, oh yeah, I'm making backups, and then the time comes to use the backup and they have no idea what to do, all right? All right, now let's, also, I told you, you have Google Analytics for free. Well, ask them, what statistics packages do they make available to you? Do they just have a bare bones package, or maybe none at all? And here's the thing. I can tell you for years, I would use the simple ones that the hosting service gave me because Google Analytics was too much information. It's overwhelming. And that might be your case. So just check to see if they have simple statistics, so you can see how many people came to your site, what pages they visited, how long they stayed, and where they came from, and so forth. Just simple stuff like that can tell you a lot about your website. And also ask them if they have real-time statistics. That means you don't have to wait a day to see how something's going. You see the statistics updating immediately. All right, now here's another big warning thing to watch for. Don't get sucked in by a cheap hosting that claims unlimited everything, because this is a trick. I mean, the word unlimited, as soon as you see that and it's really cheap, you know it ain't unlimited. All right, I'm just telling you. There's something in your contract that has limits to it. So if your site takes off really good, they're going to start charging you. You might get enormous overage charges. So don't get sucked in for something like that. Don't fall for it. Another thing, ask them, do they have SSL certificates? And when I say ask them, a lot of times the hosting services, will list all the benefits they have. So SSL certificates are mandatory nowadays. They're what make your site secure, and it gives you an HTTPS instead of HTTP. And again, Google came out years ago and said, if yours don't have a secure site, you'll never see the light of day. See? So it's an absolute must. Now, if it's included in the fee, technically it's like a freebie for your host, added onto your hosting. We've had some of those, and some of those you have to renew them every 3 months, which is a pain in the neck, which is nothing more than going in and clicking a few buttons and doing stuff. But if you forget to do it, then your site goes unsecure and people get big browser warnings and it's all scary. They don't want to visit your site. So see if it's just permanent or if you have to renew it all the time. And how much space do you get to put your files? How much does extra space cost as your website grows? Now, do they have complete email services? Now, I happen to not use my host email services. I use another host called an Exchange server, which keeps my email updated on all my devices. And for God's sake, please don't use Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, or AOL for your business. I mean, it's okay to have accounts at those places for other things or personal stuff, but you want your email address to always have your website in it. So every email you send, they know exactly what your website is, and they can go to it and check you out. Check to see if they require a long-term contract. Avoid them if they do, because what are you going to do if their service is terrible? You're stuck. What is their uptime? That's the amount of time out of 100% of the day or the week or the month is your site available. It should be 99.9 to 100%. And is their tech support any good? They should have support by phone and email 24/7, live chat, and you might want to check them on this before you sign up. If you email them, how long does it take them to get back to you? That's terrible. Now, here's a super big warning. Do not let some techie person offer to host your site on their own server computer in their basement. Now, they might not say, oh, I got a computer in my basement. But if they offer to host your site, I'm okay with it if, and this is a gigantic if, they are just reselling some big company's hosting and making a few dollars a month on you to watch over it. I'm cool with that. But you just can't have the wool pulled over your eyes by a tech person who does not have 24/7 support, does not have 10 days of battery backup in case of electricity being out, or hurricanes or other power outages, and does not have computers buried 60 feet underground in case of earthquakes or tornadoes. You can't do this. And I get so many people, they don't want to hurt the feelings of this person that's been robbing you and treating you poorly, and you just don't know about it. If your website's up there and it looks pretty, most people are all happy. Well, there's so much more that you need to know about what's going on behind the scenes, and allowing this to happen with some tech person is just crazy. It's stupid. I'll call it ignorant, which is not a mean word, but maybe you didn't know, but now you do. So if that's happening, you better do something about it, or you're negligent. You're being negligent to your business. Your site needs to be at a place where it's up, it's got tremendous support, it's got battery backup, it's got protections out the wazoo, and your techie guy, when the baby is sick, ain't thinking about you. I'll tell you that. And you could go down and lose tens of thousands of dollars while they're doing their family things. And I don't blame them from doing their family things. What I blame them for is selling you this bill of goods because you didn't know any better. And they know you don't know any better, and that's how they get away with it. And some of them are marking it up to $50 or $100 a month, where you could have a dedicated server for that amount of money. See? So don't get sucked into that. Let's say you do have to change web hosts. Well, it's usually a massive pain in the neck, okay? So you better have a good reason to do it, and keep in mind what I was saying about the porpoise effect. But there's times when hosting services they're ripoffs, they're terrible, you can't talk to anybody, it's just poor service. So it's time to move when that. And make sure whoever's you get somebody that knows what they're doing to help you with the move. It's not easy. So here's some tips to help you reduce the size of the pain that you're definitely going to suffer when you move web hosts. First of all, don't quit your old web host until the new site is up and running perfectly. And before you do anything, make sure your new hosting service can do what you want it to do. If moving a complex site is a massive pain in the neck, then doing it twice would be considered a massive, colossal, and you're a big dummy for not checking the new place out first, pain in the neck. All right, now you must make sure you have a copy of every single file that will be transferred to the new web host, both on your hard drive and backed up somewhere away from the old host. And if you're using WordPress, whoever's helping you will be able to do this easy. Test everything thoroughly over a couple days on the new host. Have some friends. You can get access to the behind the scenes where the whole world can't see it, but you can give your friends access to the new site you're building, or the new host that you're on, and have them test everything. Chances are they'll find a lot of stuff that you have been missing if you haven't been paying close attention over a long time. I mean, this happens to me all the time too, because so many sites, so many pages, links can go bad and so forth. So let them test out everything for you. Now, after you're thoroughly satisfied that everything's working good, go ahead and make the changes needed for the internet world to find you at your new home, at your new host. And this could be a pain in the neck too. So you'll just have to plug along, and you could have up to 2 days of downtime once you make the switch. This is called propagation. This is where the world, instead of looking at host 1, is now looking at host 2 to find all the files for your site. And this is called DNS. And I'm not going to get too deep into this, but basically what you have to do is, if you got a new host, you're going to go to where you purchased the domain name, and you have to change a setting to tell the whole world when they see your domain name, instead of looking at host 1, now they're going to look at host 2. So this is called the DNS. It's something you don't have to know too much about. It just has to be done. And it can take from a couple hours to a couple days for your site to show up at the new place. Now, you might look at it, maybe you're on the East Coast and it shows up within a couple hours. But your friend on the West Coast says, no, I'm still seeing the old site. That's normal in the first couple 48 hours or so, because the whole world, it's propagating around the world to tell the whole world that your site is at this new place. So don't kill yourself worrying about it, but it does have to be done, and a geek will do it for you easily. Now, if you purchased your domain name from the same place that you're hosting, you normally don't have to change the DNS. Everything is taken care of internally for you. But anytime you purchase a domain one place, and I do suggest keep them all in one place. If you're buying domains at GoDaddy, great, just keep them all there. Because, one time I almost lost Antion.com because it was purchased one place and I missed the email that it was to be renewed. And then it almost went back on the market, and there's somebody else that really wants it, that their first name is Antion, I think. So you got to be careful about that. But if you're hosting different from where you purchased, you must make that DNS change after you know the new site is all ready to go. All right, folks, so you can see there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes along here, but service is really important in hosting. The best I've ever seen came from a place called Liquid, and yes, I have an affiliate link, and I'll put it in the show notes. But I'm not trying to talk you into changing if you're happy and things are going, but you darn well better know how to get into your hosting company, which is different, remember, than getting into your website to throw up a blog posting, all right? So you have to know where it's hosted and have the user ID and password to get in there. Don't let some techie person keep you in the dark, because they will disappear. I've seen this. I've been doing this 26 years straight, all right? Seen hundreds and hundreds of people stuck because the person they loved disappeared off the face of the earth, or had a falling out with them. Or I saw that person was ripping them off and alerted the principal, and now they had a big fight on their hands, and then that person had total control. I've actually seen them where they disappeared and they actually owned your domain name. And if you don't think that can happen, if you just turn this over and they say, oh, well, we'll buy the domain name for you. Well, they made themselves the registrant, which means they are the legal owner of your domain name. If you let that happen, that was ignorance, and you need to change that right now. You must be the registrant and the administrative contact. We're talking about domain names now. And they could be the technical contact, but if they're the registrant, 99.9%, they knew that they were taking control of you at that point when they became the registrant. They weren't just doing it to be benevolent and make it easy on you. Nobody that's competent and ethical would ever do that in a million years. So if they're the registrant, they're ripping you, and if you start some trouble with them, they're like, screw you. I own your website. I'll take it down. That's the kind of stuff that I have seen many, many times over the years. So I don't want that to happen to you. So these are the kind of things we protect our students about in my mentor program. If you'd like to check it out, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. It's the #1 longest running, most successful mentor program in internet marketing ever. And I triple dog dare anybody to compare my program to theirs, and we'll see. And I tell you what, they'll crawl under a rock, because there is no way on earth they provide all the value we do, with one-on-one tutoring, unlimited for a year with myself and my entire staff of people. So it's just tremendously powerful. Plus, when you're in the mentor program, you are gifted a scholarship to my school, which you can then give to a loved one or somebody else. See, so And I warn people, make sure that person is going to be around because it's a $19,000 scholarship you're getting. And if they poop out on you, you lost the thing. So don't do that. But anyway, check out greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. Give me a call if you need any help. And if you got to really seriously get a hold of your hosting. Make sure you know where it's at, that you know how to get into the company, user ID and password. Now, I guess I better tell you how to find this. Go to whois.sc, put your domain name in there, and it'll tell you who the registrant is. Now, unless you did private when you purchased it, but if you were smart enough to do private and you purchased it, then you probably don't have to worry about it. But if your web designer purchased it for you and made it private, again, you can't get in and find anything about it. But if you didn't, or if they didn't make it private, you can see the registrant, the administrative contact, the technical contact, who owns the site, all that stuff is right out there for the public. So check it out and make sure that's you, because I don't want to get a phone call from you saying, Tom, I lost my website. It's gone. The web designer stole it and it's gone. I don't want to hear it. So, if I have to hear it, I'll hear it and I'll help you. But I don't, you're on notice now. You should do something about it. All right, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. We'll catch you all on the next episode. We're going to have Ruth Klein on Wednesday, who's just a magnificent brand builder, known her for 100 years, and she's top of the line. So make sure you check out Wednesday's episode. All right, we'll catch you on the next episode, and I will see you later. Beat this pandemic. Beat the pandemic. Learn how to work from home. See you later.